Banbury, welcome to the Marketing for Business podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Mate,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this because, look, I know you went to school to eat your lunch as well. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. You're like a lot of the people I've had on the show where look, you've been successful, and I'm pretty sure that you don't really want to talk about too much success that you have, but you've actually, the reason I wanted to interview today, because I know you've grown a couple of really cool businesses, you're a smart business owner, but I think it's really cool to tell inspirational stories, because I think there's a lot of business owners out there, they're just like us, you know, they didn't go to university, they didn't, you know, like they just got in there and started doing stuff. So appreciate your time.
Thanks. Yeah.
We're going to talk about some cool stuff. I want to get into your journey first. Obviously, we talked about school. You went there to eat your lunch. Did you just not relate to school? What was the deal there?
Yeah, I think I probably had an issue around portraying the message that I wanted to, or putting things on paper, or things like that. And that was the first issues that I had around. I wasn't fitting into the box that was school.
Yeah. Because you were I vividly remember being told to read, and you had to read these books. They never made sense to me. It was like, what the hell is this about, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't until I was 23 that I remember a guy telling me when I was in Spain. I was actually in London going to Spain. He said, Scott, you can choose any book you want. I remember being in a bookshop, and he said, you can choose any book you want. And I thought that was really foreign. Yeah. Because at school we're just told what to do. It was a really interesting takeaway. So you didn't go so how long did you stay at school?
So I stayed at school for until halfway through 7th form, but I actually, the purpose of the 7th form year was just to see out the first 11 season.
Oh, really?
And then we played our last game, and I didn't go to school the next day.
Classic.
Yeah.
So you were at
Shirley Boys.
And you were in the first 11?
Yeah.
Batter or bowler?
Oh, no, football.
Football,
yeah.
That's right. Oh,
yeah,
cool. Yeah. So that's okay. So what did your parents say about that?
They weren't too happy, but I think they could see Mum didn't want me doing 7th form, 5th form English and Maths for a third year in a row. So I think they accepted it.
I can see why you relate to Beams now.
Yeah,
definitely. No, look, it's an environment that I find. I was the same. I went to school, played cricket. I just loved it. I loved the fact that I could play sport, but the rest of it was just kind of, it was hard work, right? Yeah. Yeah. Football though, like you obviously had a passion for that and you love football. What does football mean to you? Because I know like New Zealand, we're in a middle of a booming of kids playing football. I think it's fantastic. So what does football mean to you?
Yeah, I think the main thing, like that team camaraderie and the, but also putting in the training. Like I really, my favourite part was actually the training during the week. Like I loved it.
What was that?
I think it's when you get to dial into a different skill motion each time, and so you'd be concentrating on just one specific part of the game. Yeah. It's
such a skillful game too. Like I know my son, and watching him doing what he's doing inside the academy, and they're only young fellas, but just how skillful the game is. Yeah. And I really appreciate it as a kid growing up. I love playing footy. My uncles used to tease me though. My uncles were farmers, and especially one uncle would really get on me for playing soccer, and there's a few things they'd call me I can't say on camera. So I ended up having to play rugby.
I've had those names.
Yeah. And it was real awkward, but now I just think it's fantastic that kids can play footy, and there's no that kind of you're this, you're that kind of gone now. It's actually seen as a real cool game to play.
Yeah. And a pathway to a career.
Oh, how good. I played cricket with Ryan Nelson. Yeah. And he became like a superstar, right? Yeah. And you can actually, have a career and make money and do what you love. So how far did you go with your soccer?
All through the Canterbury's, but just couldn't take that next step. Yeah.
And was it just skill set or just time, or what was your?
I think my main issue was speed. I was actually talking to someone about this last night.
Really? Yeah. Not fast enough?
First 5-10 yards. Yeah. Not fast enough. Yeah.
Do you think with the training they have these days though to increase your speed, you could have increased it?
Yeah. I think the knowledge now. Yeah.
Because they are making guys quicker now, right? Because of the technology, or not just the training wise. You know, the technology
specific
and the training.
Yeah.
See, that's where I missed out too then. I vividly remember Canterbury training,
Yeah.
under 16s, they're filming it, and it's the first time I saw myself in video. And honestly, I thought I bowled like Richard Hadley.
Yeah.
And I came in to bowl, and I did my thing, and Morris was filming it, and then we go to watch the video. And I was like, who's that idiot? And he goes, it's you idiot. And I said, nah, that guy bowls off the wrong foot. And he goes, well, that's you, you know? And I was so embarrassed. I just thought I bowled like Richard Hadley, but actually I bowled like Lance Keynes.
Yeah.
But a worse version. It was actually quite humbling to realise that maybe I wasn't as good as I could have been, or should have been. But but sports are great. I think it's great for people, younger people. I think, when I talk to young kids, are you playing sport?
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got kids and stuff in sport now, like.
Yeah, 2 kids, so 9 and 8, and they're
Cool.
both football.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who do they play for?
Down at Ferrymead.
They play for Ferrymead.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
I'll have to look out for them. We were the Mighty Nomads.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sport, and you got through the Canterbury's, but obviously that would have been a cool experience as a young fella playing for Canterbury and stuff like that. You're quite proud of those days because.
Yeah, real proud.
Yeah. I remember like playing for Canterbury as a kid, and I just thought it was such a cool thing to do. It was, so the kind of good memories that I have from my days playing sport. What did sport teach you that you think now in your business career that you've still got?
Yeah, like real good stuff, and I think around is if you train and you train hard, when it comes to your performance, it just follows through.
Yeah.
And when you do the work, you get the results.
Yeah.
That is like absolute.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but you got to do the work first, right? So, have you
100%.
taken that into the business environment?
Yep.
Yep. So, give me some examples of what have you done?
So, I think, and I definitely had a shift about 2 years ago where I do a lot of audiobooks at night, and I'd actually do them at the gym.
Okay.
And so, instead of having music on at the gym, I'll have an audiobook where, and I might go through about 1 or 1.5 a week.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I think that's my training as much as well. I'm training the physical side, I'm training the mental side for my week or what I'm trying to achieve. Or
that's cool. What are you kind of go-to books that got it on at the moment?
I think a lot of it is around the evolution of business or different ways you can manage personnel. That's probably my core day to day.
Nice.
Is the environment that I'm creating at work.
Nice. Yeah. What are some of the takeaways that you've got there at the moment?
So some of the takeaways would be having an environment where anyone can be challenged.
Okay.
Like there's no hierarchy.
Nice.
Like I'm a fan of that. So that's one thing. But then also the other side is that, performance is at the head, tip of the arrow. So it's like we have to perform for a business to continue growing.
Yep.
Yeah. And to continue to all have jobs.
Yeah. And how's your team buying into that? Like, what's your...
No one really leaves.
Yeah. That's cool.
This is probably a good...
Yeah. And are you having conversations about it too, like in their workplace environment? How do you set that up? Because I think it's an interesting topic for business owners to, that whole getting the team and everyone to buy into the business owner's thinking. And what do you do to drive that?
So I would portray that message. We have a Thursday morning meeting with all hands, the whole crew, including the Auckland staff as well. And then, probably specifically, I suppose my style is probably working alongside and in there so someone can see me doing it.
Yep.
That's probably...
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you learn and then implement and show people.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's cool. So you actually doing the training, you're working on yourself. And I think as a business owner, that's a real key step, right? Like doing that, like I always say, work harder on yourself than you're doing your job, right? And I got that from Jim Rohn, doing that work while no one's watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's because business owner, but businesses or business owners, this can be quite a lonely environment.
Yeah.
So you kind of, an audio book is someone that actually they're coaching you at the end of the day, aren't they?
Yep.
Which is real cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So let's look. Okay, so you've played your footy. What did you do next? You got into selling cars.
Yeah, so I wanted to go down that pathway. I actually had a friend at the time, a family friend who worked for Rick Armstrong's.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't actually necessarily have something on that day, so I went to a different dealership and I just washed cars. So that's where I started.
Yeah.
And I was happy to start where I started. Yeah.
So did you get into the industry because you wanted to, do you like cars?
No, I just don't even particularly like cars.
Yeah. So why did you get into the industry then?
I got in first because I could see that I wanted to get paid how I worked, and that would purely come down to commission. I wanted to go into commission.
Wow.
And I knew that my perception at the time was I'm maybe too young for real estate because I don't have a house, but I had a car.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I'm already there. So that's why I went into the car industry.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, and you basically thought to yourself, hey, I want to get paid what I'm worth. If I put the effort in, I'm going to get the effort out.
100%.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a different way of thinking, right? Because a lot of people probably just, go to a job, collect the money, and that's it. But you definitely in sales, like you get that, you put in a bit extra, you get extra out, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So you're washing cars day one. That's not really going to plan, though, is it?
Well, I knew it was a pathway. I had to do that first. Get in front of the right people that could give me an opportunity.
And did you ID like Rick Armstrong as a place that you really wanted to work? Was that because Paul Kelly, those guys back in the day, they really owned that market share, didn't they? They owned the mind share first, which grew that market share.
Yep, 100%. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough actually to work at both of those places.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Rick, I was there for quite a while. I groomed there, and then after about a year, I started selling. I would do Saturday, Sunday selling. So
Cool.
I'd wear a tie.
Yeah, nice.
And then Monday morning, go back to my overalls and wash cars.
Yeah. How good was that though? Like, how was that transition? Like your whole, because I guess when you put your tie on, you kind of got a different uniform on, right? So you got a different attitude. Like, did you get that feeling you just wanted to make one of them really work? Like, you wanted to be in that sales environment, right? Like, was that you just?
Yeah, at the start they didn't want me to.
Yeah.
So
why was that? Were you so good at cleaning cars?
I was very good. I'm still really good. No, I think I was probably too crazy, probably too young, and just shot my mouth off.
So they just they wanted some. How old were you back then? Like
18.
18. Okay, so still fairly young, right? When it comes to so they probably put you out there, clean the cars, grow you a little bit, mature. But it's cool that they gave you an opportunity to work on a Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And how was that? Like, what did you?
I just loved it because that was where I was trying to go.
Yeah.
So that was my goal. So I just put everything into it.
Do you remember the first car you sold?
Yeah. That was to a lady in Littleton.
Yeah.
And it was a Z3, a convertible
Oh,
BMW.
nice.
So it was classic, and it was freezing cold, and I went for a demo with her. We took the roof off, and my ears were so cold. Yeah. So and she brought it, and it was awesome. Yeah.
And so was it finance back in the day, or were they cash buyers?
So that makeup and the Rick Armstrong style at the moment is still such that you complete a sale and then you pass it over to a business manager who completes the process around the paperwork. And
so you get them over the line, and then
to be honest, I can't even remember.
Wow, that's a pretty cool process though.
Yeah.
Different conversations. You're just talking about, hey, the car and her needs and all that sort of stuff and what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And then, like, do you talk price at all? Like, is there?
Yep. So talk price, confirm on a write-up sheet or a sale, a guide on the sale, sign it, and then take them through, introduce to the business manager, and then you can stand back. Yeah.
Were they a good car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Probably still got it.
Yeah, maybe.
One careful lady driver.
Yeah.
Okay, so was that your Saturday and Sunday job, or you obviously sold a car there? Like, you would have been pretty stoked about that, right? Like,
yeah. Well, the first and the thing was, it was like, hey, I'll do it for free for I don't know what I said. I would have said a long time just to get in front of them and get into that, and then I could get out of grooming. That was my aim.
So you didn't get any commission? Like,
no, but that was the deal I made.
Oh wow!
But I was happy
so you actually worked for free. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
So I felt that was a quicker way to get in.
Yeah. And it would have shown, hey, this kid because a lot of kids back then, wouldn't be too many kids going, hey, I'll work for free and I'll turn up on a Saturday and Sunday when you're 18. Yeah. Most kids are probably boozing it up and, doing what they're doing, right? Yeah. So it would have said to the business owner, hey, this kid's serious. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting. I was talking to a young girl the other day, she wanted to get into the industry. I said, look, go and find some clients and do some stuff for free for them. Yeah. And I've said it to a few people before and they go, well, why would I do that? And this girl got it. And she actually sent me some pretty cool stuff that she'd done. And I was like, you know what? You go to the top of the queue. Totally. Like when I pull the trigger next, you're at the top of the queue versus someone who's like, oh, why would I bother doing that? It's just a different attitude. And I think that's probably some of the things that are even missing in today's society. Yeah. Totally. Because also it showed that you were prepared to back yourself as well. Yeah. Because if you weren't, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't waste your time doing that for free, right? Like And it's having that desire. Cool. So how long were you doing that before you really got into the swing of things full time?
It was pretty quick. It might have been maybe about 6 weeks or 2 months, and then
Cool.
after those Saturday Sundays, then I rolled into full time, and
Yeah.
they called it a sales cadet
Yeah.
at Rick Armstrong.
Were you consistently making sales by then? Like, were you starting
Yeah.
to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It helped that there's a lot of structures in place at a organisation like that.
Yeah.
It is, if you work hard, you'll excel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want you to succeed,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
That's what I loved about selling. I remember my first real sales job was at Bond, and I loved it. I loved the fact that you could just get in there and you make your own money, you
Yeah.
know? Like, and it was real, like, people had a desire to buy stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not like they walked in the shop and like, oh, not just here to look around,
Yeah.
you know? Generally, most people are there to buy something, you know?
Yeah.
And you could really, partake in that, eh?
Yeah.
Ask them cool questions and see what they're up to, and next minute, we're doing a deal. It's a pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's not many, like it's quite from a personal development perspective too. You really get to learn good communication styles too, right?
Yeah.
And good training as well. Like,
Yeah.
That's what I liked about those industries too. Really good training.
Yeah, and there they had like what is a common, I suppose industry comment would be a double close, and it would be
Yeah.
like two people, and it wouldn't be so much to put pressure on, it would just be to create the environment where you got to see it in action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that was what a lot of mine was. I would have someone come back from a test drive, I would go and get a manager, and then we would both sit down, and then I could see firsthand the process of negotiation, presentation, asking for the sale.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's the number one thing you learned when you've been a sales cadet?
Ask
Ask
if they want to buy it.
Ask if they want to buy. Yeah.
If you don't ask, you don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's ironically,
Good.
there's so many people that don't. It's crazy.
It's a little simple thing, right? Small hinges swing big doors. That's a small hinge, but it swings a big door.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so many business owners just don't ask.
Yeah.
Don't ask for the sale.
Yeah.
Cool. And obviously, the more you ask, the more. Did you treat it as a numbers game, or did you be a bit more strategic than that? Where you're like, okay, did you get, obviously you're trying to hit your numbers. But was it more of a relationship sell, or were you just trying to knock them over? Like, what was your?
It was definitely both. So I would want to grow a relationship because that's how I got referrals.
Yep.
And then they would come back to me and they wouldn't be dicing it up between other people.
Yeah.
But definitely once I got a foothold in the environment, I was then absolutely trying to be number one.
Number
totally.
one.
Yeah.
And as far as sales cadet, how long did you have to stay in that role?
So I was there for a couple of years, and then I actually had a phone call from Paul Kelly.
Yep.
And and then that day I went and saw him, and he was looking for more people at his 9990 yard.
Oh yeah.
The mothership.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we literally, I went down to his workshop and we agreed, and I shook his hand and I went back to where I was and handed him my notice.
Yeah. And how were they about that?
I think they were fine. It's like, there was no hard feelings or it was no.
Yeah. It's interesting, that whole 990 concept. Was that right at the start of the 990 concept? Yep.
It would have been pretty early. So that now, I would have, 18 years ago.
Yeah.
Crazy, eh?
Murray Hale was on the podcast. He was one of the guys behind that whole concept, right? With Paul Kelly. And he said on the first day, I think they sold 105 cars, and it was $1 down. And they put the dollars in the jug and took them to the bar. And they had 105 $1 coins.
Classic.
How good.
Yeah.
But that was a really cool concept, right? Like,
yeah.
Apparently the $1 down was because you needed it for buying or something, and it helped with the finance. But then the 9990 was perfect.
Yeah.
So you would have got a huge amount of experience, like, because the walk-in traffic that those guys were getting back in the day, like how many cars were you?
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I went through that process, and then for a couple of years, it was just me and another guy, Jason, and we would have been out of that yard. We probably were averaging around sort of like 40, 45 each a month.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just
awesome.
us two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then we had a couple of groomers, and
Yeah.
But the environment was set by that organisation. It was, the car would turn up beautifully prepared, groomed, stickered with the 9990s on it. we would just have to talk to the customers, get them over the line, and then you would send through a job card to the workshop. Like it was Swiss watch all the way through.
Nice.
Great process.
Nice.
Yeah.
You can definitely, like I've bought a couple of cars now from those guys, and their customer service would be up there with most industries.
Franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they are certainly a good operation, right, across the board, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You could tell they were systemised to some degree. They had but then the care that they had from that customer service perspective. Because it's not so much when things are good, it's when things aren't good that you notice where the real customer service is. And had a couple of examples where Paul Kelly really stood out over the years. That's cool. So still selling cars, 45, going along. Have you starting to get ambitions of owning your own business? Where you're at this stage?
Yeah, so then I was there maybe, 3 or 4 years again, and then at that stage, actually an opportunity come up down at Euromark with Angus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so, and I went there. I think what the attraction was there, and it probably linked back to the Rick Armstrong style as well, as when you're doing a distributor brand and new product, there's a whole nother realm of training that the actual distributor or the car brand will provide.
Okay, cool.
And so, as much as I said about cars, I do like the Italian cars.
Yeah.
And so, with Euromark having that product, Alpha, etc., it was definitely an attraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, obviously the training and stuff, but what were you worked, if you look at, Rick Armstrong, Paul Kelly and Angus, like 3 titans of the industry.
Yeah.
What did you learn about their marketing? What did you see as a young person? What were you seeing, or what were you learning in that environment from? If you look at your business now, are there any things you go, hey, I do that because that's what I learned with these guys? Like, is there anything?
Yeah, and there's bits from all of them. So I've been thinking about this, and it's like, I think from, like if I go Paul Kelly first, be that the process and the sale and things that make things easier for your staff, but also make things easier for the customer. Yep. Really important, and that's what makes you, that's what gives you scale or opportunity to do a lot of transactions.
Yep. That process in the sale.
100%.
Yeah. So what do you mean? Like, give me some like an example of that.
So the example would be, what is the customer experience and how can we make things easier by maybe garnishing information that we need that is easy for the client to give off, rather than asking for it late. But also in that process of car preparation and obviously delivery, it was really, really well done. So same again, it's like, what's the experience for the customer? It's like, this is going to be ready Tuesday. The great news is we're going to do this, this and this, and no problem. And then you actually 100% deliver it. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's systemised, process
and the business is set up in a way that it can deliver that, and you've got confidence that you can tell the client where they're going to be at.
And it doesn't matter if Jimmy picks it up, Johnny picks it up, or Meg picks it up. That's going to be done, right?
The system's
a system.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's obviously from Paul Kelly, the process, and not like that. What about Rick Armstrong?
Rick was a good one, and Rick was probably. I think the intensity that you bring to your job, and when you're at your workplace, what matters is your work. Yep. And that's and then also being available. That was one thing that he was extremely hard on. It was like, when a customer comes in, you're there, you're ready, you can deliver exactly what the client needs, the information that the client needs, because you're well prepared. Yeah. Yeah. It was preparation going into either a conversation or when someone came onto the dealership or, They
have a great saying in the restaurants, and I know this because I did my 751 chefing, mise en place, which is, I probably said that badly, but it's preparation prior to service. And I never forget it, Like, it's the work you do beforehand that allows you to give that experience. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what he was getting into there, right? Like, it's that work that you're doing to make sure that you're prepared, but then the customer sees that, right? Yeah. Because there's nothing worse in customer service than dealing with someone they're fumbling around, right? Then they're kind of making stuff up, and it's okay. It can be okay if that's what you want, like, from your customer service experience, and if you want to grow that sort of business, but you're not going to compete, There's a reason those guys are successful, right? Yeah. Because one, they have processes, and one, they have standards around certain stuff, right? Yeah. It's pretty clear. Yeah. That's very cool. What about Euromark? What did you learn from those guys?
Angus he was unbelievable at looking, the environment that he created for a staff member.
Yep.
That was the and then I think probably the other one was, and so the environment was a good environment, and that was my experience anyway, and it was a trusting environment that I could come to him with whatever I wanted to.
Nice. So you're talking about culture there, like the
culture
whole culture of the business. What was you doing there to make it everyone feel like they, because that's a big thing. Like if someone can come to you as an owner, you're doing something right there, right?
Yeah, I think it's probably just the reaction when someone comes to you and wants to talk about a specific thing, and it's not maybe jumping to something, it's grabbing all the information and then actually helping someone make a call.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So empowering them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, listening first and then empowering them.
Yeah.
That's very cool. And like, it's interesting, like if you look at your business now, and we'll get into more of this and what you're creating, but you've definitely, I can tell from just, talking to you over the years that you've definitely brought a lot of this sort of stuff together into the team that you've created, right?
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So how did you get into the finance game? Like
so when I was with Angus, obviously we had a lot of the brands at that stage, still on the same sort of sites he's on now, and then also Eurofinance.
Yep.
So he actually had a broker on the side. Yep. And I was involved with sort of overseeing some of that.
And so when you look at you didn't go to you went to school to eat your lunch, played footy. Were you good at maths?
No, we played darts because I was in this class.
Well, you had the count.
yeah, classic. So no, there was a lot of first 15 guys, and then a couple of other sort of people, stragglers, and we played darts.
Yeah. So how do you go then from like selling cars to then getting in the finance side of things? Because it's kind of a different space, right? Because you're not talking to the customer that much anymore, are you?
I think it's it's all encompassing with those ones. It's like understanding the process, making commitments to the client, seeing it through, but also garnishing the information that you need and trying to make sure it's you only get what you need and nothing more and nothing less, and then acting upon it. So
okay, so you now in the Euro finance department and heading that up, or what do you?
At that time, I was doing Euro finance and the brand, so Alpha Fiat Citroen at the time.
And when did you see the opportunity to pull the trigger to own your own business?
I didn't actually go looking. What came about was I had a relationship with another guy up in Auckland, Sam.
Yep.
And he at the time was pushing into Google AdWords.
Yep.
And at this time there was very little competition.
Yeah.
So he could spend $50, $100 a month, and be head of page.
Yeah.
And so he wanted someone to actually close those deals out. He was extremely good at getting the applications, but he needed someone to close it out with finance facilities.
Yep.
And that's how. So then we formed a relationship, and I did it under Eurofinance.
Brilliant.
And we continued on talking, and and where it actually got to was we had an opportunity of getting in front of AA, Automobile Association.
Okay. Which is a solid brand here in New Zealand. Like that's anyone walk down the street, you pretty much know AA, right? Like
The power and and that reputation of that brand is unreal. Yeah. And so we got it. We had an ability to understand what they were doing in terms of how many applications they were getting and so on. Obviously, they have a subsidiary, AA Finance, doing car loans, cars, boats, caravans, and and we actually went back and presented them and said, hey, if we took this over for you, this is what we could do for you.
Primo.
And then the conversation just went from there. And
who were they using at the time?
So at the time they were actually using a bank here in New Zealand, and they were passing through the leads, and that bank was ringing the client as AA Finance.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So you became the person in between.
Totally. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, the processing hub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So you were cool. What do you call yourselves? That was when you were one partner?
We were one partner, but one partner was purely just the bank account and who played the employees, but we were AA Finance.
AA Finance. So as far as the client was concerned, or the customer, AA Finance. So you would have obviously leveraged a really nice brand in the marketplace.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you would have had to build your own systems and that. So that's where you bought the top line, getting the business in, and then you created the processes and systems to...
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So was it you and Sam? So you...
Definitely, yeah. Sam's, that was, we're 50-50, and we've been business partners since, so it's been 9 years now.
9 years, how good.
Yeah.
And so that's just coming, if we look at 9 years, that's after earthquakes here in Christchurch. So were you nationwide?
Yeah, AA Finance is nationwide, yeah, but the call centre was here in Christchurch. I live in Christchurch, and then Sam's in Auckland. Yeah.
How good. And how many staff do you have now?
So now, there's a long story. So now we have about 30 now.
Wow.
Yep.
All in Christchurch, all over the place, or?
So about 24 in Christchurch,
Yep.
and then the rest in Auckland.
Oh wow.
Yep.
And are you still with the AA? Like, that's still you're running that sort of. You're expanded. I know you've got a couple other things on the go that we'll talk about as well. But like, has it been constant expansion, or where's the?
We wanted to push more into the car dealer business,
Yep.
and what that looks like is you sit in behind a car dealer, create that business manager environment for the dealer, and help them through the process.
Yep.
And,
So doing what you were doing at
exactly.
Euromart, you're
Yep.
now that finance. That's smart, right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of those guys probably wouldn't have that capability.
Yeah, and you get some real efficiencies where if one person gets 5 deals off different dealers, they are that business manager for that dealer, and
For
so
the
on.
dealer,
And and then it just funnels in, and those efficiencies just start to pay dividends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exponentially, right?
Yeah.
And you can scale that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your bottleneck's not really there's maybe a couple of bottlenecks around the money, but really, like, once you can get a dealer on,
Yeah.
you can actually churn that, keep that going, bring another one on, keep that going. Same systems.
Yep.
Nice. How'd you come up with that idea?
I think it was just a natural evolution, really.
Yep.
And I think probably from my side, being so familiar with the dealership process,
Yep.
that was really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, what do you think makes it what makes a successful business in that space? Like, if you look at your car dealers, if they didn't have the finance, would they be successful? Like, if you see or if you looked to partner, probably a better question. When you look to partner with a car dealer, what do you look for in because you don't want to hitch your wagon just to anyone, right? Like, you're looking for specific people that you want to do business with?
Yeah, well, sometimes I think from when you first look at a dealership, and it might be a one-man band or whatever, that suits us.
Yep.
Because we can actually add some massive, a massive upside to that process.
True.
And then the car dealer has, 23 financial advisors he can fall back on in our call centre. So,
yes.
And then through to a dealership that maybe is selling new cars and has business managers, but maybe either with their overflow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we do try to set up and create solutions for all car dealers.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's actually quite smart, isn't it? Like, it's because you can deal with those, the one-man band, but also you've got you've got the skills there to help. And really, like, the value that it helps that one-man band as well is quite huge, right?
Yeah.
That's very cool. So you could put that into other areas now, though, right? You don't actually just need to stay with car dealers. There's a whole bunch.
So we do a lot of caravan, boat dealers,
Yeah.
jet ski guys, motorbikes.
Nice. And so if you look at, say, your competitors, what are they doing? Like, are they doing the same model, or are they mainly just...
Yeah, I think, we do have critical mass, like we do have size, and, and it's a, it's effectively like a freight train. Like, we do finance a lot, so I think we have, probably, from a competitive basis, it's maybe if someone goes to the bank directly, or maybe actually just uses the business manager at a yard, that would, But, yeah.
That whole finance game is definitely as interesting. I just had talking to, he was the chairman or the president of the New Zealand Mortgage Brokers Association, right? And we were just talking about how the finance game changed, right? The whole, and where it was already owned. It was owned by the banks, right? And for a lot of people, they couldn't get the right information, or the banks would just shut them down. Now, obviously, with brokers coming in and actually asking better questions, so they actually deliver better results. Where people probably couldn't get approvals before.
Yeah, totally. And that's the best thing about our side, is understanding the questions that need to be asked to get the answer quickly.
Yeah.
Totally.
And have you learnt that over time? Like, have you just...
Yeah. And I think naturally that gets refined daily as well, because the movement of the financial landscape in terms of triple CFA movement, which is the criteria that we would fit under when understanding affordability or so on, that always moves So, we need to be fluid as well and move with it.
It was interesting. He made a comment. Well, he was actually on a select committee, and one side of the table was obviously the mortgage industry, and the other side is the government. And he just said he just remembers one of the people just leaning over the table and said, "Hey, we're not here to make your industry profitable," and so they were protecting the consumer, right? And obviously, you obviously gone through that in the last probably year and a half with how they've changed some of the rules in financing. How's that affected your industry and to some degree your stress levels? It's because it's a moving beast, right?
Yeah, I think because that probably falls back to Sam's side of the business.
Okay.
So I deal with the crew in terms of getting things done, but in terms of our technology play and how we get the answers we need, that's what Sam's really good at.
Yep.
And and there's certain steps and processes that we go through of getting different information that we knew would satisfy triple CFA.
Yep.
So we were able to move quite quickly. So to be honest, it was actually great for our business.
Yeah, because you've got
we moved with it quickly, and then we had some serious wins.
Yeah.
And
he was actually saying the same thing. Like a third bought into it, a third sat on the sidelines, and a third said, "No, we're packing up and going home."
Yeah.
And he said the third that got on with it have really got on with it and made some money. So you obviously your role is looking after the team. What do you do on a daily to do that? What's your...
So I turn up to work at the same time every day.
Yep.
That's my I'm very routine based.
What time are you there?
10 to 8.
10 to 8?
7:50.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when does everyone else start? Are you first man in the door?
No, sometimes I am, but sometimes there's we do have it's a hard working crew.
Yeah.
So sometimes there's 3 or 4 or 5 before me
And when do the phones start ringing? Because that's what you were in. You're in that the emails start coming through, the phone starts.
The emails are all night, but the phones are really sort of 8:30.
Yeah.
That's when they click on, and everyone's at their seat, ready to go.
Yeah. And so your day 7:50 get there. What are you looking for during the day? Are you there? Are you helping people? Are you firefighting deals? What's your day look like?
Yeah. So it is pretty much. It's I think getting alongside those deals that would otherwise be a negotiation piece. Maybe there's an asset that maybe a lender's not happy with, and we need to overcome that.
Yep.
Or create a different opportunity for the lender to be happy with.
Cool.
Or it could be, how we're going to garnish this other information off a client, or and different ways we could ask them, and I would work with each individual during that period.
Nice. So getting clarity on the deals.
Yeah.
Yeah. What stops most deals these days?
Not getting the information quickly off a client.
Yeah.
It's not really sort of us. It would more be busy lives.
Yeah.
Or someone maybe shopping around.
Yep.
And then it becomes the Johnny on the spot. Who's the first to ring them?
Yep.
If you're in a competitive environment.
Yeah. And is it still a competitive environment? Even though it's if people say recessions, that sort of stuff, are people stopping doing stuff, or are people still...
No, it's still going, and it's still competitive, definitely.
It's crazy, deals are still getting done.
Yeah.
I think, recession's kind of interesting. I don't know how much you look at recessions, but recessions affect people that lose their jobs, right? Inflation affects everyone because prices and all that go up, but recession generally doesn't affect too many people. And obviously, if people are still spending and wanting to buy and invest, especially in that car space and caravans and boats and stuff, that's they're not always just need purchases, are they?
Yeah. Some of them are want.
It's interesting. What do you do? Do you obviously to generate leads? What are you doing? You mainly in the digital space?
Yeah, so we run quite a heavy, from a Google proposition, paid ads.
Yep.
And then we kind of have 3 different areas, and then that's sort of one silo. The other silo is our dealer introduced business.
Yep.
Where we partner with the dealership.
Yep. So they're going out the dealers that you're talking about. Yep.
Yep. And it could come straight from the dealership's website, or just obviously they log into a portal. The deals come through in our lead flow.
Nice.
Or then thirdly, the advisor network, so mortgage advisors.
Okay. So what do they do there? Obviously...
They'd be the same. So actually direct off their own website, or obviously a push through from them just into our system.
And how have you grown that? Just is that relationship type stuff that you've done over the years, or?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, effectively, we are partnered with a couple of aggregators.
Yep.
Here in New Zealand.
Nice.
Yep.
And I've seen a couple of things you put out on Facebook, LinkedIn, where you're working in the dealerships. What's that all about? Is that part of the building that dealer network? Is that
no? I think probably more so that stuff that I did on dealership was actually more for me. I just wanted to make sure that what I was presenting to a dealer and how I was talking to a dealer was still valid.
Okay. Yep. So get in there.
Totally.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Actually, just talking about that and what you learn from going and sitting and talking to people,
Yeah.
there's a lot to learn there. So that's pretty cool that you've done that. And Google Ads running, look, that's, there's business there, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's an expensive platform now to advertise though. Like it's definitely, it's a media that is very, very competitive. Anyone can be there as long as you've got enough money. But at the same time, the ability that you can leverage is pretty key. Any other digital that you do? Do any other in the digital space?
Lightly social.
Yep. Because you're not like your brand one partner's not out there.
No, better finance.
Yeah, better finance.
Yep. That's our.
So are you marketing the better finance? Is that you?
Yes.
You go to the market with the better finance.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with that name?
I think one partner probably, there was sort of a feeling that it didn't resonate. This is when we split off from AA.
Yep.
So we split off from AA, and we've been away from AA for probably sort of a little over 4 years now.
Yep.
And and we wanted a brand that was in market, in play, and that was our hero brand.
Yeah, nice. I like it too. Better finance.
Yeah,
it's nice. It tells a wee bit of a story too, right?
Yeah.
And like so to grow that brand, you're really looking at growing it with the people that have access to the customers there, aren't you?
And then our own database. Our database of settled clients is 40,000 people now.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
How often do people buy cars?
So, typically someone would, from a finance aspect, if someone finances a car today, typical is that after sort of 21, 22 months, they're on the hunt again.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that because they want to get something new, like they just
totally.
want to upgrade?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the going rate for finance?
Obviously, it's if you asked me this last year, it'd be quite a different story. At the moment, it's sort of 11, 12.
Yeah. One thing I think a lot of people don't understand about finance rates is it depends on your credit rating too, like what you get, right? So I think that's a really it's a misunderstood thing in New Zealand. Like if you clean up your finance rate,
it changes dramatically. Yeah. So specifically, and that's what a lot of our biggest success of marketing to our database is actually around educational.
Yeah.
And I think the education of a credit score and how it works and how you view it, and that is vital.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite hard sometimes to get that information.
Yeah.
Or where to.
And also what affects your credit score, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy what can affect the credit score. I know one of the team here, they had a mark on their credit score because we actually had to do something for one of our clients, and it looked like because we'd done that, she'd made an inquiry, but we just needed to do it. We were checking something on a website, and all of a sudden her credit score got pinged, and she was really upset about it, and then we actually ended up getting it taken off. But it was and that's when you started learning about that whole process around education. So what do you do to educate your database? What's
So, purely just around, we did a lot of emails around how this is what a dummy, it's called a CCR, a comprehensive credit report, actually looks.
Cool.
And the data that's on it and how it's read from a bank or a lender.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome information.
Yeah, and that was by far an email that created, from an open rate, was, very different to other emails that we would otherwise send. Yeah.
One of our core values here is influence through education or influence through insights. Massive believer in giving people information or insights that can actually help them. That's a massive one. You could keep that on repeat, right? That email, and you could put it in other formats to actually educate people, because there's so much grey area when it comes to that. No one really understands it,
Yeah.
So that's awesome. It's great to hear that people. Well, it's kind of like, if you went around a room here and asked everyone what their credit score was, most people wouldn't know.
That's right.
They wouldn't know. And is it out of 1,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. And most people wouldn't know. So if someone was wanting to find out how their credit score? Do they go to places like you, or how do you find out about it?
Yeah, places like us, or actually, and on those emails, we actually direct off-brand as well, not even to it, because we just want to grow the education, because it actually helps the whole sector.
But if someone wanted to find out their credit score, you could go to Better Finance. Is that your website, betterfinance.co.nz?
That's right.
What do they have to do? They put in an application, or just get on your database?
Yeah, get on the database, or actually fire through an inquiry.
Yeah,
on there.
I would fire through an inquiry just to find out,
Yeah,
because
it's really interesting
and handy to know. I remember back in the day when I used to work for Bon, like it was PRG, Pacific Retail Finance, right? And so they had Noel Lemmings and Bon. And Noel Lemmings and Bon and the Palms Mall were side by side.
Yeah.
And I met this guy called Paul Cundall. And he worked for Noel Lemmings and I worked for Bon. And then we ended up going to Bon and Morehouse Ave. And I became fast friends with him. And he said to me, Scott, give me $10. I was like, what do you want $10 for? And he goes, I'm going to buy some chocolate fish and we're going to send it up to the ladies in the finance department in Auckland. And I was like, is that how you're doing? He goes, trust me. So I give him $10. He goes, get these chocolate fish. He sends them up. So back in the day, this was way 98, 99, right? So what was happening is people would get they would get the television license, right? It was like $25, but people wouldn't pay it. So their credit score, because they have a TV in your house, you had to pay for a television license. It was $25. The reason I know that is because the guy came around to our flat once, and he asked how many TVs I had, how we had, and I went, 4. And I was like, oh shit! So we got a bill for $100, but people would get, and so we'd sell like a fridge, a vacuum cleaner, you name it, like TV, everything, on a finance deal, and you put it through, and it'll come back. No, you can't have it, and it's like, why can't they have it? So you'd ring up and go, oh Scott, is it you? Yeah, that's a TV license. Tell them they need to pay the $25, and they.
Yeah.
So, but it was amazing. Like chocolate fish would get you those answers, right?
Yeah.
But it was crazy what would hold people back, and people didn't know, right? And if you just said, "Oh, sorry, you can't get finance," they wouldn't have known why their credit score. I'm dating myself by saying TV license, but that was true. What was going on? Yeah. So the power of chocolate fish too. So. Okay, cool, man. This is interesting stuff. Like I find the whole finance game. Because of regulations and that sort of stuff, and it's such a fast moving, and it's kind of encapsulates everyone's life these days, right?
Yeah.
Like, before, what I find interesting too, like before, access to finance wasn't really a thing that everyone sought of. I mean, we when I first started at Bon, we had post dated checks. The people give you 3 post-dated checks. Then they had 12 months or 6 months interest free. Then 12 months interest free, and now it's like it's part of life, right? People finance stuff, right? So when you look at obviously opportunities, now you've jumped into another business, which I think is fantastic. You're never going to sell me one of these, but I know my listeners, they some of them do love their motorbikes. So you've got involved in a motorbike. So tell us all about that, because I think it's a fascinating story.
Yeah, so that came up, and it's an extension of when you talked about working in the yard.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think the holy grail for us is to absolutely know the dealer environment and to understand the steps and processes and to provide real life feedback and live feedback on the market.
Yeah.
And that sales process, be it a motorbike, a caravan, a jet ski, a car, they all have those same steps and processes.
Yep.
And so that was what the attraction was there. And we had the ability to jump in with a current staff member for him to be the dealer principal.
Cool.
So it didn't take any time aspect from, say, me or Sam.
Yeah, good.
And so that's the Casbolts. So Casbolts has the Ducati brand for the South Island and Honda Christchurch.
Yeah, nice. So have you got a motorbike?
Well, they're all down there. They're ready to go.
Do you ride?
Well, I do now.
Yeah. I learned to ride a wee bit on a farm, but I don't know if I can game enough to get on out on the open road. But what I loved about that, and what I loved about the story there is, like spotting opportunities. You don't spot opportunities by being behind your desk. Yeah. Very rarely opportunities will come across your desk, but you are out there doing stuff.
Yeah.
And things started to happen because the people needed help, and you were in the right place at the right time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what a great add-on to your business.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, totally. Yeah, and it doesn't, it's not really, it's not a competitor or as such. It's not going to get in the way of of what we're doing day to day.
No.
But it's only going to assist us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you will learn stuff, right?
Yeah.
As well, like it's part of that whole process of learning what's going on, and you can see. Yeah. Is it a big business as far as people wanting to buy motorbikes? Like, you definitely.
Yeah, it's a high turnover environment.
Yeah.
There's over 100 bikes retail down there.
Yeah.
There's a massive sort of apparel section, and then there's service and parts.
Yeah, and Ducati is like obviously that's one of the holy grails.
Italian.
As far as it's a really sought after bike. I think if I was going to buy a bike, it would be a Ducati.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I'd trust myself. My wife's listening to this. Don't worry, I won't buy it.
We'll get there.
I've got a few other things I want to buy first. Yeah, man, this has been a fascinating chat. You talked about audiobooks before, and I find it really interesting. Obviously, people that take the time to self-educate themselves really, really do get that exponential growth. Do you feel yourself like you're still a young person, but do you feel like you've really got some good experience behind you now because you've been in the workforce for a long time? And I think not only is it just it's that mental kind of IQ as well, like that you have around that business environment. Can you see that's really starting to help you now? Like what's the
Yeah, and I definitely think in those last 2 years I've been probably dialed into that audio piece and training, like my mind or the steps or the processes that I bring to work, and that I feel like that's been a big difference.
Yeah, I like how you've like really flipped that switch too. Like it's not just an audio book; this is training.
Yeah,
being absolutely deliberate in what you want to learn.
Yeah.
I find like at the moment I'm in that phase too. Like I'm really deliberate about what I'm learning, and who I'm learning from, and I really like and then just challenging yourself to do, like not just learn it but then go and implement, and being prepared to go. You know what? Should I better go on a plane and learn some from other people here, and really just like get involved, like immerse yourself. That sounds like something that you've got really good at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely been it's been an area where I felt I needed to work on, and so
Did you read books beforehand? Like, were you a reader?
No, not a reader.
Yeah,
no.
And that's the beautiful thing about audiobooks now, right? You don't actually have to be a reader.
Yeah.
What speed do you listen at?
1.1.
Do you? Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
What I've found really, really interesting, and I can't remember where I learned this from, but get the book. I'll get the audiobook, and if I really like the audiobook, I'll buy the book.
Yeah.
So then I'll go back to the audiobook and the book.
Yeah.
And I'll have a pen in my hand and I just start to really look at the parts that was good. That's part that I really need to look at. And that's been really useful for me from what am I going to take in action point of perspective. But audiobooks are amazing. Like I do think it's kind of like a hidden secret to some degree, I'm at the gym too. I'm not listening to, if I need the last 20 minutes, I'll listen to some music. But really, other than that, I'll just be in my own world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it fascinating. What are you listening to right now? What's your audio book?
So right now is an audiobook called Profit First, and what it actually talks about is actually the way that you could run your business differently, and it would be what is the profit you're trying to achieve from your business, and you take it out first before you actually then go and
Michael Michalowicz.
Pay your other bills, etc.
You might even see it on
There's
there.
a lot of books in there that I've been through.
That book changed my business.
Yeah.
Yep. And I've told everyone, like, I wish I'd read that book like day one.
Yeah.
Like because like all young business owners, I end up owing the taxman money.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was all my money.
Yeah, totally.
And it's real interesting. Like I've made a simple formula of that: X% to tax, X% to profit, X% to trading.
Yeah.
And there's more ways you can do it too. But I've got a young lady that I coach with a digital marketing company, and there's no money transacts. I purely just want to help her. Right. This is the thing I got her to set up from day one.
Yeah. And
she has money in this profit account. She has money in that tax account, and she loves it. Like there's just freedom in her eyes because I'm saying this here is not your money, and this here is your money. but you're going to have to wait a wee bit.
Yeah.
But at least it's going to be there.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a great book. Like really, it definitely. It's a book I wish I'd read. Like, a lot. He's actually got some really other cool good books out too. But so do you have that sort of structure, or are you setting up that sort of structure?
No, I hadn't heard it before, and obviously I've heard people talk about it and that sort of thing, but I hadn't actually dialed in and read the book. And I suppose I'm, especially that audio piece is like how much I go through. I feel the best thing I can do is really try to take some real good nuggets out of each time I hear something. Yeah,
he has a real good supplement that goes with that audio book too, like a PDF, which is kind of explains it all too. Yeah, there's a really good the guy called Scott Pepe who wrote The Barefoot Investor. Yeah, he's kind of got that version for humans, like just for not business owners, of how you set up your financial accounts. Yeah, which is I've shared with all my team, and they all get into it, and it's really cool to hear. People who have money in the Smile account and they're taking their kids to Disneyland and all that sort of stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, money's an interesting one in business, right? Like if you don't control the money will just controls you.
Yeah, and I think it can, especially through that COVID period, like a lot of businesses, including, there was, it struck us via cash flow in a way that no one ever thought would happen. No. We're all going along great, and then, one day we have no cash flow. Yeah. And it was, and it was a way, it was actually another great thing that happened to me and Sam, because it brought up a whole lot of conversations that we otherwise didn't really need to have, but we needed to have. Yeah, that's cool. So we went through that, and then we make other plans and steps and processes, and now we would be in a position if we had COVID again. Yeah. We would be in a way different position. Yeah. But
that's a cool thing to learn from, right? Because if you didn't learn from that, then what's the point, right? Yeah. And if you didn't have those conversations too, and I think that's the cool part about being in a partnership with someone, having those conversations, having those robust conversations too. Yeah. Okay, mate. I'm going to put you on the spot because look, they tell us we're in recession. You've been a business owner for how long now?
So business owner, 9 years.
9 years, okay. So you've learned a few things. I want you to look down the lens here. I want you to talk to, what if you're a business owner and you need to do 5 things. I want you to go to what are the 5 things I would do to get my business really up and running or kind of recession proof from what you know now, about business. What are 5 things that you would do maybe differently, or what would you do right now?
I would like to think a lot of them we're doing now. Yeah, cool. I think first of all would be creating a good environment for the staff. Nice. And that good environment obviously expands itself out to how you deal with a client, how you deal with B2B, your partners on the back of the business and so on.
So treating the staff well and creating that great environment is going to have a reflection into the marketplace, right? Yeah. Nice. Like it?
Yeah. As we just mentioned, I would set things up in a way that that gives you the freedom of maybe either being aggressive when there's something in front of you and taking a risk. Yep. Because, risks, if they're calculated, they really pay off.
Okay. So talk to me a wee bit more about that.
What I mean is probably, when I was talking about that example of maybe like understanding the cash flow piece and pre-COVID and post-COVID and those sort of things, it's like, when you have certain things in place from a financial aspect, it gives you more confidence to be like, we're gonna back ourselves here and we're gonna do this. Yeah. Because you know the outcome, like the worst case scenario, you're covered. Yeah. And then it's about, okay, well, there's upside here. Yeah. So if we don't take that, that's awesome. Yeah. Thirdly, I would take advice from every single person and then implement what you think would challenge you or be positive. Yep. And sometimes that advice can come from the most peculiar places.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too, because I know, the challenge part is the key there, right? Because you can take advice, but okay, what are you going to do with that advice? Are you going to let it sit there, or like it's challenging you. Like at the end of the day, you got to take action, right? Yeah. So you got to challenge yourself, Because some people, like especially in these times, they either fight and get involved, or they fly or they freeze.
Yep.
It's actually quite common for a lot of people to freeze, right?
Yeah.
And not do anything. And I think that's I guess that's the thing here is the challenge and not do that.
Yeah.
Nice. What about that? You said take advice from anyone. What do you mean by that?
So I think when you talk to people and you engage with different people in different processes across all different situations, and it could be in your industry or out of your industry, everyone might have a comment or something to say.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. I think taking that on board is actually a real positive thing,
Yeah.
because sometimes they might have gone through an experience that is actually absolutely resonates with where you're at.
Yeah.
And you might not have thought that person would actually have great advice, but it could be.
Could be, yeah. And I think also, like what I've learned from being in business is a lot of the good stuff actually happens from outside your industry.
Yeah.
Other people that have been through other stuff. And one of the really cool things I heard was, going and sign a non-disclosure agreement and go into a business meeting or a business environment that's opposite to your industry, get on the board meetings and stuff and listen to the challenges those industries are having and how they're solving them. And I thought that was really, really interesting because there's so much you would learn from putting yourself in that environment, where you just can't get like being in your industry, right? Sitting back and being, so that's really cool. Number 4?
Number 4 would be understand what your customer goes through.
Yep.
So, one thing that we dial in on a lot is we understand where a customer comes from in terms of how they might land on our site, how they land on our phones, and then what their experience is.
Yeah.
Because if you know what the customer experience is, then obviously you understand the process, but also it gives you the ability to self-check and say, okay, we can improve something here, or this could be better.
Nice. That's cool. And what about like talking to customers? You're big, like, obviously you guys do that on the daily.
Call
right?
centre.
Yeah, call centre. So you're learning stuff all the whole time, right?
Yeah. And every single phone call dropped into a call recording piece, and obviously that gives me the ability to go back through, obviously understand some different conversation points that are happening, and then maybe say, hey, maybe what about this? What about if we said this here? Or
That's cool.
Yeah.
They're getting it to the point where AI will be able to do all of that.
Yeah.
And have those conversations too, but that's another conversation. Number 5, these have been good, by the way. They're really, really on the money.
Yeah. No, number 5, I think. I had something in my head just before, and I've just.
Well, you've got creating staff environment, so I think that's on point, right? And calculated risk. I think that is like in this time. There's exponential gains to be made by taking that risk right now, I reckon. Because people are going to sit there and go, not sure, not sure I back myself, not sure. I think there's too much election on. Let's not do that. There's too many. So that is a great piece of advice. I do like taking advice, and I think getting it from more people. That's something I probably need to be doing a bit more. And then understanding the customer experience or the UX, they're pretty solid 4.
Yeah, I think the one that I've got out of a lot recently, and number 5, which I've been trying to dial into, specifically say the last year, is really understanding all the information before I make a call. Okay. And that's one piece that I've probably tried to work on a lot.
Yep. And when you say information, are you looking at data? Are you looking at facts and figures? Are you looking at...
I think when someone says, hey, I've got this issue, we have a car here, or X, or this is the issue with the customer, and then straight away, instead of saying, okay, this is the solution, it's like, actually, let's dial in and let's understand the whole process and what happened.
Nice, yeah.
Because a lot of it, especially from either staff training or making calls or reacting, and actually blowing your own blood pressure, that's one thing that I was good at.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing that from an educational side, I dialed into that a lot, and it's getting all the data and understanding everything before you actually make a call and actually react.
Yeah. And that definitely comes from experience, right? Because you've obviously got to a point where maybe this is not working as easy as it should be, right?
Totally.
And like going, hang on, what if I just take a step back? There's a really interesting, I listened to Gilbert Anoka. I was lucky enough to go and see him at Harcourt's. And he was talking about this triangle, right? And he talked about, it was the high performance triangle. So you had you had basically your mindset here, you had skill set, and you had structure. And it was really interesting, like he taught the All Blacks around, most of them have a really good mindset, right? So, okay, that's fine. If you've got high performance, you're going to have good mindset. Then you've got your skill set, right? So your ability to pass the ball, kick the ball, that's great. But under pressure, where things go wrong is structure. So he was actually he gave a good example of a halfback. And they taught them structures around, he would blow up at the referee. And he was always getting told off for blowing up the referee and a couple of times getting the yellow card. Maybe the Chiefs could have used this on the weekend. But he said, so what he gave him was the structure. He said, hey, when something like this happens, what I want you to do is I want you to take 3 steps. I want you to look around at your teammates and breathe. In and out, in and out. And then come back and see if you think the same situation's happened. And also at the same time, when you're looking at your teammates, what did you see, what did you see, what did you see? And it's really cool because you can have the skill set, you can have the mindset, but if you don't have the structure under pressure, you default to, just going in, which is what you were doing, right? You were going in, not saying you were under pressure, but you were like some of those environments create those pressure situations, right? So you get all like, versus now what you're doing is you're stepping back, going, you know what? Let's just assess the situation. Let's get some more information, and that's really cool, right? It's a great takeaway from your own understanding of how you're performing in the world, right? And it's funny, I listened and I heard this halfback speak on Friday night, and he talked about this, but he didn't know that I knew this, and it was really interesting to hear how it helped him.
Yeah.
So that's very cool, man. I really appreciate you sharing that. There's a lot of really good information in here. So, man, this has been a great conversation, and it's been like an hour, so we better wrap this up because I know you're a busy man. I really appreciate you taking the time. I think there'll be viewers here wanting to get, there'll probably be viewers here wanting finance because like all our guys are business people. So how do people get hold of you?
Probably like LinkedIn's a great, like I use that a lot.
Yep, nice.
Yeah.
So
the messaging on LinkedIn. And
we'll put show notes. We'll put Amos's details into the show notes so you can hook them up on LinkedIn. And look, if you wanted to know about your credit finance, head up to betterfinance.co.nz. Once again, we'll link to that in the show notes as well. Amos, is there anything last that you'd like to leave people with as far as a bit of inspiration? Have you got a favourite quote at all that you like to come up with? There's no pressure.
No, I don't really. I feel like we covered it in those 5 points, and and they're probably what's live today or what's like front of mind today. Yeah, nice. But I that's where I'm at. I just think maybe the biggest one that I've had to change lately is more that communication piece with the team, and also is that exact one is getting the information from. Cool. That's the.
Well, there's a great saying by Jim Rohn. It says, "Work harder on yourself than you do in your job." And you've seen a classic example because that's what you're doing, mate. You've got a job, you've got a business, but you're working harder on yourself because the more you work on yourself, the better outcomes you get. And taking the time to educate yourself, I think it's a real skill, and it's a fact that your willingness to learn, I think, is amazing as well. And your willingness, I think, if you can breed a culture of where your team are willing to learn as well, I think that's great. That's a great place to be as well. So you bring people along that journey, which is it's very rewarding. So man, I really appreciate your time. It's been fantastic having you here, guys and girls. Really appreciate you listening and watching to the Marketing for Business podcast. We really appreciate all the reviews. Love getting the comments on LinkedIn. Richard, it's been fantastic to know that you're doing long walks and you love listening to the podcast in the morning. Austin, thank you for listening. It's been great that you guys post those comments on LinkedIn too. So without you, we wouldn't have a show. So I really appreciate it. Look, if you want to send us a review, please do. We love getting reviews as well. It helps us keep the podcast alive and keep it going. So thanks for your time. Have a great day. And until then, take action.